If you're wondering why my eyes are actually like this right now, I did have an allergic reaction to something. I started using this, I started skin maxing. I started looks maxing, which is to say basic skincare, because I took a selfie and I was like, wow, I look like I'm fucking 40. And I got fucked up. So we're done with that. I'm just gonna keep rubbing sand and all. The good old days. Let's go back there. What's stopping us? You tell me right now why we can't go back there. And I'm not just talking about getting rid of these pesky iPhones. Let's start smoking again. Let's start rocking again. Let's put lead back in the gas. I've been mixing my own leaded gasoline in my bathtub at home. And my landlord, the IMF, keeps telling me to stop. And that's how I know I'm on the right track. I've never felt more sharp, alert, focused, and sharp. You're supposed to drink the gas, right? I'm smelling in 6 dimensions, liberals. Primal influencers, trad wives, seed oils. In this video, we are going to explore the story of Tenskwatawa, Shawnee prophet and primal influencer, using the story in service to a broader discussion on the inescapability of the present. I'm not criticizing the following sentiment. We should ask what we've lost in the pursuit of progress, and work even to return some of what we've left behind. I'm not saying that no babies have been thrown out with the bathwater. They have. I'm exploring the phenomenon of how some people will just wallow in the dirty bathwater because they don't want to put in the effort to, root through it and find the fucking babies. It's natural, universal, ironically timeless, to pine for the good old days. Every people of every era have done this. The entire tradition of satire created by the Romans was founded upon that idea that all this new shit, it fucking sucks. Mostly the foreigners. It is not uniquely white, it is not uniquely modern, it is not uniquely American. The wise men tell us that the world is growing happier, that we live longer than did our fathers, have more of comfort and less of toil, fewer wars and discords, and higher hopes and aspirations. So say the wise men. But deep in our own hearts we know they are wrong. For were not we, too, born in Arcadia? And have we not, each one of us, in that May of life when the world was young, started out lightly and airily along the path that led us through green meadows to the blue mountains on the distant horizon, beyond which lay the great world we were to conquer? And though others dropped behind, have we not gone on through morning brightness and noonday heat, with eyes always steadily forward, until the fresh grass began to be parched and withered, and the way grew hard and stony, and the blue mountains resolved into gray rocks and thorny cliffs? And when at last we reached the toilsome summits, we found the glory that had lured us onwards was only the sunset glow that fades into darkness while we look, and leaves us at the very goal to sink down, tired in body and sick at heart, with strength and courage gone, to close our eyes and dream again, not of the fame and fortune that were to be ours, but only of the old-time happiness that we have left so far behind. As with men, so is it with nations. The lost paradise is the world's dreamland of youth. Wow, I really picked the right guy to plagiarize the structure of this video from. He said all I'm trying to say, but he didn't sound like he says slurs on Discord as he said it. He sounds like he reads fucking books or something. Have you noticed that everyone is conservative? The argument boils down to what exactly should be conserved or brought back. I struggle to identify any strain of popular political thought. Luxury gay space communism, I guess. Okay. Actual non-schizo, internet-only political thought. It's all conservative now. We live trapped within so many failed futures that we're afraid to imagine new ones. Fucking tankies watch Soviet waves slop and they pine for the boot on their face. More well-adjusted internet left-wing individuals pine for the return of pre-Reagan economics, strong unions, the Great Society, or the welfare state, depending on whether or not you're on the cringe side of the Atlantic or the based side of the Atlantic. We're all just advocating for different parts of the 60s now. We differ mostly in how much of the racism we want to bring back. Who ruined America? Ralph goddamn Nader. I want to die on the road in a coffin like a goddamn man. I'll say it, I know this is not a unique observation, but no one has any ideas anymore. Those few that do, should not. The future has become, to any and all people, with the exception of a select few turbo-autist tech bros with no connection to their base humanity, a threat. In times like this, where the future is only a threat, that's when returning to tradition reaches its zenith, its peak popularity. I'm not offering solutions to our present circumstances and our lack of faith in the future. Raycon doesn't pay me enough, and let's be real, I'm not... Come on. Hey, someone else should figure that one out. I'm not criticizing exploring the past for things that we have lost. And at the end, I'm going to give you the customary lecture on social isolation, the decay of communities and how damaging it's been. But you can't just play dress up. You can't just return to entirely different circumstances on an aesthetic level and think that doing so will actually meaningfully change anything. Furthermore, to quote from a book that I thought would form a lot more of this, but it just didn't. Following a true progressive historical break, one simply cannot return to the past. One cannot go on as if nothing happened. If one does, the same practice acquires a radically changed meaning. After the emergence of philosophical analysis of notions of Plato, mythical thought lost its immediacy. All revival of it is a fake. After the emergence of Christianity, all revivals of paganism are a nostalgic fake. You don't want to be a boring old Christian. Your grandma was one of those. You want to be like a primal badass Viking. Okay, but you're returning to a thing? And they weren't. They just were that. You're making a statement that they were not. They weren't trying to. You live in a society inexorably shaped by Christian morality. You can't blood eagle motherfuckers anymore. No one will sing songs of your name. You will be sent to prison for robbing a church. Also, churches are broke as fuck now. There's really no point. Witches. Out of all the... Witches piss me off. Unless you're Azealia Banks, voodoo sacrificing chickens in closets, you're a goddamn poser. You're not a Wiccan or a pagan or whatever. You're playing dress up. You're a Christian with ugly tattoos and a crystal collection. What one must ask, all people, of all ages, from every part of the political spectrum pining for the good old days, is this. Do you know where horses come from? This video is sponsored by Raycon. Gentlemen, in my last ad for Raycon, I told you that you've been making a great mistake by downvoting my music and upvoting my friend Wolf's music on our shared playlist. It must have been because you were using inferior, non-Raycon headphones. But then you went to the playlist and, you didn't stop. It is possible that you have failed to purchase Raycon open headphones in spite of their multi-point connectivity, so you can listen to Rico Nasty, who doesn't believe dinosaurs are real, on multiple devices. How could you possibly resist their seamless Bluetooth pairing and exceptional audio quality? With their open-ear design, you can hear your music and the world around you. You have to be a damn fool to neglect purchasing a high-quality pair of Raycon headphones, which are only half the price of other premium audio brands. I don't know if anyone's told you that before. No, you bought these. Of course you bought these Raycon open headphones. You'd have to be an idiot to not do that. You were listening to that playlist with Raycon headphones, so that must mean my music taste isn't good. So I've created an AI model trained on all of humanity's greatest minds, a neural network of unsurpassed intelligence, wisdom, with impeccable taste in music. Which is to say, I dug up a bunch of smart fellas, and I put their brains in a blender, and I drank it. In a voice, it came to me, and he said, "Not enough Lana Del Rey. This is a man channel for men, no girls allowed." And I can think of nothing manlier, more powerful and dominating than the music of Lana Del Rey. And in keeping with this manly theme, Father's Day is coming up soon. While you and your father work on your classic car, you can listen to Lana Del Rey's critically acclaimed Cinnamon Girl on Raycon open earbuds. Not to mention, with this incredible open ear design, you'll be able to listen to that baby purr and your music at the same time. I use these every time I go to the gym, where I train my body for combat against paleontologists and their sick lies. Go to buyraycon.com/peachcobbleropen or click my link in the description to get 15% off Raycon's best-selling open earbuds today. If you do not go, I will tell your dad. Go to buyraycon.com/peachcobbleropen if you ever want to appreciate my incredible music taste again. Thank you, Raycon, for sponsoring this video. John Tanner was not of an uncommon type. A white man who'd been taken captive as a child and raised by Indians in the late 1700s. Better stick to your curfew, Jimmy. The Iroquois are on the warpath again. In this case, though, it was the Ojibwe, the natives of the northern Great Lakes region, homeland also of Drake, who'd raised Tanner in lieu of his parents. One day, John Tanner was out hunting when a stranger approached him, painted head to toe in black. Hello! Ah, holy shit! You should go home. Well, that's not a nice thing to say. I may be white, but I belong to a proud tradition of honkies adopted by native peoples. I meant no offense, Turkey of Jive. I meant, let us both go to your lodge. There's much to discuss. Alright. I'd let you into my home, you sinister son of a bitch. Is this like a gay thing, or? I'm a missionary. Oh, God, that's worse. I come before you shake hands with the prophet. Listen, I can't read and I can't write, but if I could, there'd be a big no soliciting sign out there. You are to keep this fire going forevermore. It and you are one. If your fire dies, so too will yourself and all your people. You are never to drink, steal, nor lie again. You must throw away your flint and steel and make fire the way your ancestors did. You are to cast aside gunpowder and the clothes of the white invaders. You are to never strike your wife nor children. Also, you need to kill your dogs. How dare you? What if they mouth off? The dogs? The women and the children, obviously. You are to heed these instructions and then shake hands with the prophet. There is nothing you can say which can convince me to follow these made-up rules for your made-up bullshit religion, alright? You ever try to start a fire with friction, but just rubbing sticks? It's terrible. Also, like that, my ancestors did make fire with flint and steel, so I don't really, I'm probably not the best audience for this one. But if you do these things, the white people will be vanquished. Oh, okay, yeah, no. I mean, I'll think about it. I forgot to use this chalkboard as an actual chalkboard. Ojibwe. Before long, these bizarre edicts, they began to be heeded. His rhetoric proved wildly convincing. The supreme irony of these instructions being delivered to, like, genetically, a white man, you don't gotta worry about that. But they didn't. A lot of dogs killed. Just piles of dead dogs. So, what the fuck was that, you ask? Well, John Tanner's perspective is but a small window into a religious movement which was then sweeping through native nations as the newly independent nation of America began pushing is a very polite verb to use, westward. Who was this prophet who advocated for a return to the old ways? Who insisted the Indians cast aside the white man's clothing, liquor, gunpowder, and even their flint and steel, which they'd been trading with white men for well over a century by that time. A man who claimed he would raise the dead and cast the white man back into the poison sea from which he'd crawled. Now, he was sort of a loser, at first. He was given the name Tlahtlahueteca as a boy. This is Shawnee for rattler, and obviously there's like a cultural context you're missing. This is an insult. They were saying he was a yapper. A Shawnee man was judged by his capacity as a hunter and warrior, and Tlahtlahueteca, he sucked at all that shit. As a boy, he was given a toy bow and arrow to practice with, which was normal among the Shawnee, and he put out his own eye. But his older brother, that guy's a winner. His name was Tecumseh. You've probably heard of him. Now, Tecumseh was a fierce warrior, fighting in the Revolutionary War against America, of course, when he was 12 fucking years old. He was charismatic. He was tall. He was handsome. I'd fuck him. This guy killed more Americans than high fructose corn syrup. How could he not? As Americans pushed westward, they had killed his father, 2 of his elder brothers. Couldn't you at least have killed the loser? But Tecumseh wasn't just a great warrior, he was a principled one. Torture of captives was a common Shawnee practice, but Tecumseh, he'd have none of that. The man fought with a sense of honor, alien to any people of this time and place, sparing women and children, only killing on the battlefield. He was, put simply, the coolest. His biggest flaw was his useless, dipshit brother, who, if he was born today, would probably be a DJ or a influencer, even. Inauthenticity would become one, a primal influencer, a trad influencer, after a near-death experience. In the winter of 1804 to 5, it's getting worse, isn't it? That's crazy. You get it. You're listening. Multiple natives around the Ohio Valley began to experience visions. There were, of course, differences between them. There was one thread running through all of them. Returning to the good old days, before the French and the British and the American traders had introduced the poisoned fruits of civilization to them. Sources say that Inauthenticity did actually die, but sources say a lot of things, don't they? I think he was just really sleepy. I think he was a snoozy boy. I think he was all tuckered out. And when he woke up, he was changed. Two phantoms had led Inauthenticity along a spectral road until it forked. The right fork, the ghost told him, led to heaven, the left to hell. Those who took the right fork shed all evil and wicked ways and became good. Those who persisted in their waywardness were fated to follow the left fork, which led into the country of Machi Manito, the evil spirit. Heaven and hell? Ein syncretism is unavoidable, and it's not inherently harmful. It's so unavoidable that a 19th century Shawnee prophet couldn't avoid spreading Christian theology while he formulated his religion about escaping the white man's influence. In much the same way that a faux pagan today will still think like helping the poor and supporting the weak are virtuous things. Vikings and pagans did not think that. You're doing Jesus shit? You don't even know you're doing Jesus shit. It is perhaps superfluous to state that the ideas of heaven and hell are not aboriginal, but were among the first incorporated from the teachings of the white missionaries. But besides this cheating off Christianity's homework, Inauthenticity was reborn with a new name, Tenskwatawa. He who opens the door. And with his new faith, he advocated for a return to traditional life. All Indian women who were living with white men was to be brought home to their friends and relations, and their children to be left with their fathers, so that the nations might become genuine Indians. All medicine bags and all kinds of medicine dances and songs were to exist no more. No Indian was to sell any of their provision to any white people. They might give a little as a present, as they were sure of getting in return the full value in something else. No Indian was to eat any victuals that was cooked by a white person, or to eat any provisions raised by white people, as bread, beef, pork, fowls, etc. No Indian must offer skins or furs or anything else for sale, but ask to exchange them for such articles they may want. Every Indian was to consider the French, English, and Spanish as their fathers and friends, and to give them their hand. But they were not to know the Americans on any account, but to keep them at a distance. All kind of white people dress, such as hats, coats, etc., were to be given to the first white man they met, as also all dogs not of their own breed, and all cats were to be given back to white people. What's up guys, DJ Peach Cobbler later here. I would like to explain the inconsistency on the matter of the dog question. So it's important to note, like most Native American religious movements, there was no central canon, there was seemingly much disagreement. Who's right here? Is it Thomas Forsyth or is it John Tanner? And there's other sources where it seems there was more of an emphasis on trying to distinguish between New World dog Ubermensch and Old World dog Untermensch. I don't know, it's just, this obviously, like I know the thumbnail is what it is. But it's important to note here, the dog part, it was a smaller part of this broader attempt to move back to the old ways, with the exception of the getting rid of medicine bags. To be safe, I think if you really want to get back at the white people for all that nefarious honky shit they had been up to these past 500 years, you should, just kill your dogs. Like all of them, just to be safe. Once again, my argument is not that there was no good in the good old days. I cannot imagine a more appropriate time and place and people to be pining for the good old days. In particular, I want to focus on liquor, which Tenskwatawa he really railed against. It's a substance I've read about destroying the social fabric of countless native peoples from the Shawnee to the Apache. Make no mistake, alcohol, that was not new. Eastern Woodlands Native Americans, they were broadly agricultural, and they did have a weak corn beer. The Apache did too, and the Apache were mostly hunter-gatherers. That weak corn beer, they called it son of a bitch. It's 6 letters, and Tiswin? Which I just think is like a cute name. Anyway, they'd like drink this and just beat the shit out of each other. But Tiswin was like 3 to 4% alcohol. Hard liquor, that was new. They had no idea how to make that stuff. Cheap, plentiful hard liquor was eagerly sold by traders to native populations, and it exacerbated the deplorable conditions that constant war with and migration away from the Americans had already caused. As all former alcoholics, including myself, know, yeah, your life sucks. Like, that's why you drink. Because there's this moment where you drink a certain, and it's just, you don't care. And it's fantastic. But of course, while you're chasing that feeling of uncaring or lack of feeling, alcohol is slowly and diligently working in the background to make your life suck way harder than you could have possibly imagined. This was the destructive process that many native communities had found themselves trapped in. My main source for this video, Tecumseh and the Prophet by Peter Cozzens, discusses one particular tragic case of the destructive effects of hard liquor on native populations. I keep wanting to talk about Nadenhutton. I cut it out of my big Blood Meridian video so I could make room for God being a dick. It killed the pacing. It is an ugly one. Whenever I discuss a massacre on the internet, uninformed, sheltered keyboard gremlins, they will say, actually, did you know the parents of all those dead babies did bad things? Yeah, the internet, and people don't like when I do the both sides thing, but genuinely both sides. Like, this is a broader phenomenon I've noticed on the internet. It might not be new to the internet. I guess people have probably always been like this, but the fact is, if they're not pure victims, they deserved it. Like, that's the sentiment, which is, those do not exist. Where are you finding these pure victims? Like, what are you doing? It's like Anubis weighing your heart against a feather, but it's like it's not a metaphor. First of all, you people that are like this, you have no understanding of life itself. I suspect because you haven't lived it, because you're a little keyboard fucking gremlin, and you don't go outside. Second of all, there was one, a massacre of pure victims. Faultless, innocent pacifists, and it was one of the worst ones I've ever read about. The worst one I've ever read about. They were even Christians. They were Delawares called Moravians who were such pacifists that they refused to take sides in the American War for Independence, whereas most Indians sided with the British because they didn't trust us for some reason. The Moravians were true centrists, committed to their centrist ideals, and they were butchered by patriots for their centrism and probably another thing, let's be honest. I'll spare you the details. It was as bad as you could possibly imagine. Blame racism, the fog of war, the anxiety that these bold patriots had, in war. War creates anxiety, and when you're anxious, you make mistakes. But the fact is this. An elderly survivor of the Nadenhutton massacre perished from alcohol poisoning. She sold her corn crop and all her belongings to buy whiskey, and then sat down and drank so long that she gave up the ghost and fell over dead. Indian villages sank into squalor. Scarcely a day went by without a drunken murder or a maiming. Brother attacked brother. Inebriated Indians slaughtered their own livestock and horses in drunken fits. Neglected children fell victim to dysentery and died. Women, and sometimes children, imbibed as heavily as men. Elders lamented the loss of their young, but often succumbed to drink themselves. Drunkenness was an unquestionable scourge on Indians living near the American frontier, and led even to the depopulating of the very animals which they depended on for sustenance. Like, they would trade pelts for liquor, so the forest would just be nothing to eat anymore. Things were bad, and they were getting worse. Tenskwatawa was not wrong to demonize liquor, nor to lament the degradation of his people in the face of white encroachment. The problem is this. Control. The video game by Remedy where you play as a pretty cute redhead and you're like fucking... I'm doing a hauntological essay on Control. We're gonna be gaming again, boys. And I'm staking my claim here. This one is mine. If someone has done this, tell me, I'll be very upset. I'm not criticizing the Indians. I'm criticizing humans. When we are faced with a seemingly unsolvable problem, a thing so powerful that it is out of our control, in this case, bellicose, war-mad honkies, we will settle for what we can control, even if the actual problem remains unsolved. Denying the influence of Europeans does not get rid of them. Also, we'll get to it. It obviously did not work. Wearing animal skins does not fix the problem, in the same way that a few girls wearing pretty dresses and baking bread, that will not restore the material conditions which made the single-income household possible. In the same way that eating bull testicles is not going to remove the plastic from yours. These problems are bigger than you can control. And in order to fix it, it will require the organization and real effort and study. And I'm just not gonna do any of that. I'm just gonna wear the pretty dress. I'm gonna make that fucking bread. Antibiotics and soap are not primal. Your body needs to naturally fight off the bacteria in order for you to achieve this physique. A thing which is both reasonable to achieve, and you should want this. This is a thing you should want to look like. Trust me, I have a degree in bro science. Bro science is the study of fitness built upon no studies. If it feels right, it's probably fucking right. You can't absorb more than 30 grams of protein in one meal. Your body knows what a meal is. You put more than 30 grams in and your stomach goes, no thank you, sir. That was all at once. Can't do it. Tenskwatawa, he never said a goddamn thing about horses. I'm not sure he knew. I also don't think that wearing white people clothing was the source of their problems, nor even using their guns to hunt, necessarily. I think it was the guns being used on them. Tenskwatawa didn't just say reasonable things about stopping the constant drinking and how that was destroying the social fabric of their communities. No. And he didn't just blame white people either. No. He blamed witches. Azealia Banks and her ilk running around in the woods. The Delawares themselves, no stranger to American violence as I said earlier, had a few suspected witches. They wanted this prophet to identify them. Boy did he. They were killed because they were witches. Pawns of the honkies. Tenskwatawa's story also highlights an often neglected aspect of Native history that we don't discuss, in much the same way that I see Mexicans driving around in those big, ugly, loud, fucking redneck-ass trucks that I thought I'd left in my hometown. So too were Native Americans adopting quite a few aspects of European life. Consider Tecumseh's mentor. His name was Blue Jacket. He was a Shawnee war chief. And this guy was all about American stuff. Blue Jacket's lavish lifestyle was on open display. Outside his immaculately maintained cabin, which his Métis wife provided with European furniture, he maintained a huge collection of muskets, war clubs, bows and arrows, and animal skins. His light-complexioned daughters were famously beautiful. His two sons well-educated and bilingual. For all Blue Jacket's hostility towards the Americans, he and his family epitomized the mingling of Native and European influences in the Old Northwest. This video is going to conclude with a broader discussion on the whole misguided, inauthentic Indian thing. But for now, we should highlight what Tenskwatawa's religious revival was feeding into, something that of actual note, purpose, and utility. Pan-Indianism. Much like the 13 colonies had, at that time, only recently, united in the face of a common foe, working together to further their shared interests, so too had there been several attempts before this, and of course attempts after, to unite all native peoples in an area in order to expel those gosh darn honkies. There was precedent, but pan-Indian alliances tended to be shaky, ephemeral. They didn't last very long as a rule. And who do you think is going to try to lead this? Yeah, the useful one. Blue Jacket himself had made something of a confederation. Pontiac famously had done so with great success against the British, and Tecumseh in the early 19th century made his own attempt to unite the many diverse nations against the Americans. Tecumseh's political designs were supported by his brother, make no mistake, legitimized by his prophet status. What, you don't believe him? Well, neither did the governor of the Indiana Territory, William Henry Harrison. Future president. William Henry Harrison was as American as a slice of apple pie, tipping the waiter who served it. His father was a signer of the Declaration of Independence. As a boy, his family farm was burnt down by that rat bastard, Benedict Arnold. George Washington himself, as president, approved Harrison's application to the army. I should note, he was bookish, he liked reading. I suspect he was a possible communist. Harrison inherited little from his father, who was wealthy, and he settled at the edge of the frontier in the Indiana Territory, where he soon became governor. Harrison and Tecumseh soon would be enemies, but it's important to note he did respect him. Many did. Tecumseh was just that kind of fucking guy. You just wanted to like him. Tecumseh is one of those uncommon geniuses which spring up occasionally to produce revolutions and overturn the established order of things. If it were not for the vicinity of the United States, he would perhaps be the founder of an empire that would rival in glory Mexico or Peru. No difficulties deter him. For 4 years, he's been in constant motion. You see him today on the Wabash, and in a short time hear of him on the shores of Lake Erie or Michigan, or on the banks of the Mississippi. And wherever he goes, he makes an impression favorable to his purposes. He is now upon the last round to put a finishing stroke to his work. Harrison did not like Tenskwatawa. He challenged his followers, if this man is a messenger of the Lord God, then why has he performed no miracles? He just showed up and he told you to kill your fucking dog. What even is that? Tenskwatawa made the sun disappear. Facts don't care about your feelings. The sun's gone. What do you got to say about that shit? It was a solar eclipse. Unless he was the luckiest prophet ever. He learned about it from the white people. It was this that truly cemented his reputation and increased his number of followers. What really got Tecumseh's alliance going was the signing of the Fort Wayne Treaty, which Harrison masterminded. It was a greedy land grab. Could you imagine? As Tecumseh worked to promote his pan-Indian alliance in the South among the civilized tribes, son of a bitch. Okay, so there were a bunch of tribes in the South that they really adopted the white man's ways and they were looked upon favorably for that reason. It did not help them. They got some of the worst of it. They were very populous and they would have been incredible allies. But as all this was happening, Harrison marched with 1,000 troops to the new Zion, which Tecumseh had built, known as Prophetstown. Now Tecumseh had told his brother, no fighting the white people. So if you want to guess what happened next, this is clearly a very anti-Tenskwatawa video. I find him to be a very unimpressive guy, a tragic figure. On a personal level, I don't like him. However, I do want to note that the source that I used is very partial to him, so I didn't just find a book that trashed the motherfucker and then just quoted directly from it. Cozzens argued that Tenskwatawa didn't really have a choice. Harrison had permission from the head of the U.S. Department of War to demand Prophetstown be dissolved, and that's war. You're showing up and saying, we're going to do war if you don't destroy the place you live and leave. That's literally what the Romans did in the Third Punic War. The point is, they did a battle. It was called the Battle of Tippecanoe. It did not go well. During the War of 1812, Tecumseh came into his own, fighting alongside the British. As Tenskwatawa's primal stuff, it really fell to the wayside. The political alliance proved to be, the important thing. Tecumseh was so vital to the British war effort on the frontier that a rumor was circulated in American newspapers that he was commissioned as a British officer. It was often unimaginable to the Americans during the Revolutionary War and the War of 1812 that the Indians they keep allying themselves with the British. The British have simply tricked them into not liking us. During the War of 1812, Tecumseh would tragically fall in battle, and his confederation, in spite of some successes, failed to push back the frontier permanently. Tenskwatawa's religious movement was a shadow of its former self by this point. He even abandoned the one unquestionably great part about his whole philosophy. In a startling break with the bedrock of his religious doctrine, the prophet asked that the department deliver 4 barrels of rum to him at once. There is no evidence that Tenskwatawa himself backslid, but he no longer objected to his warriors besotting themselves. It was clear that the Shawnee holy man had lost his way. He no longer prophesied, neither did he speak of the nativist revitalization that he had been spiritually reborn to lead a mere decade earlier. Tenskwatawa and Tecumseh lived on and fought for the northwest frontier, but in the years after this, it would cease to be either of those things. In fact, Tenskwatawa would meet one of the 2 famous explorers of the new Northwest, William Clark of Lewis and Clark fame, as Tenskwatawa and his several hundred followers made their way to settle in Kansas. I've told the reservation story a few times now, but in this case, this was what Tenskwatawa wanted. This was about as good as it could have gotten. For the years before this, he and his people had lived in exile in Canada, and they lived on the British dole. None of this was good, but it was life, and it just kept moving. I'm sorry that I keep quoting this book. It's a really great one, and I like that it actually is not super pushing hard the exact point I'm trying to make, it unintentionally. You can be super partial to Tenskwatawa and he still just doesn't look good. William Clark had declined to recognize Tenskwatawa as the legitimate leader of the immigrants, and federal officials funneled rations and annuities through the young Chief Cornstalk and other government chiefs. Then came Christian missionaries, Baptists and Methodists, who brought the Bible on one hand and worldly improvements like plows, mills, and oxen in the other. These enticements chipped away at the traditional Shawnee aversion to Christianity. Children attending mission schools received good clothing and nourishing meals. The Baptists brought in a printing press, and a Shawnee language newspaper soon appeared. Surrounded by former tribal foes and nonplussed by the specter of Shawnee assimilation, Tenskwatawa withdrew with his family of 9, his son, 4 women, and 4 children, to a natural spring in a small wooded ravine close to the Shawnee Mission School. There at White Feather Spring, he proclaimed the new Prophet's Town, 4 lonely cabins that he and his relatives inhabited. For the final decades of Tenskwatawa's life, he was not considered a prophet by anyone. He was a strange artifact of an earlier age. But in 1832, a painter named George Catlin at nearby Fort Leavenworth invited the once famous religious leader to sit for a portrait. In Tenskwatawa, he showed up, dripped the fuck out. And just all the accoutrement, loaded with symbolism and meaning that really only he now remembered. And among these symbols and talismans was a string of beans which, in another world, another life, men from Canada to Kentucky had run through their hands in a ceremony that they called shaking hands with the prophet. Excuse me, I ordered authentic Indians? Genuine Indian. Organic, no pesticides, no adulterants. I want genuine Indians! Tenskwatawa was neither the first nor last native prophet to advocate for a return to the old ways. Certainly, I'm not about to say they were wrong to pine for the old days, but the simple and terrible truth was that wasn't possible. If they were to assert their independence, if they were to actually change their circumstances, they had to do so in a modern way. Tecumseh, despite allying himself with his brother, did not behave traditionally, forging alliances with disparate peoples, soliciting support from and fighting alongside the British. Kill all the dogs you want. This is an early modern war fought alongside European power with muskets. The return tradition stuff is understandable, but it was always based upon a flawed understanding of tradition, the same way internet dipshits don't really understand the past they seek to emulate now. Another colorful prophet was Smohala of the Wanapum. He said the Chinese had tails, and when asked if his people should give up their horses, he said, "What? The white man gave us ponies?" No. We had ponies long before we ever saw white people. The Great Spirit gave them to us. Our horses were swifter and more enduring, too, in those old days, before they were mixed with the white man's horses. No horse race mixing, fellas. That's how you get horse Mexicans. The next video, I promise, actually for real, is my big Geronimo video I've been working on forever. Like, I'm doing a big road trip, the whole thing. I'm going to San Carlos. I gotta admit, I am a little curious to just, meet Apache people, like actual Apache, like in the books I've been fucking reading for a year. But are they Apaches? I mean, really? Some of them have iPhones. I looked up the San Carlos reservation on Instagram. I found their youth council. They sell tacos for $6. Goddamn kids these days. You want money? Go steal mules from the Mexicans. Like, what the fuck is this? To quote John Bork, an officer in the Apache Wars, after witnessing an Apache elder using one of those like old-timey brass ear horn things, time does move. The white man feels like his life is inauthentic, too divorced from nature, the past, to be real. It's a bizarre psychosis. I don't know what to do about it. We do be living our lives swaddled in saccharine simulacra. I'm your best friend, trust me on this. We project it onto other peoples. Any cultural shifts among Native Americans, two peoples live next to each other, they shape each other. This was one of the major motivators behind one of my favorite historical figures, Edward Curtis. Yes, he really did dress like that, like a cartoon adventurer. Because he sort of was. At the opposite end of the 19th century of Tenskwatawa's primal movement, Curtis was possessed with an idea. The idea that he should travel all over North America, photographing and documenting authentic Indians and what were their last days on Earth. I mean, they're all dying for some reason. Maybe the British tricked them into it. Also, even if they didn't all die mysteriously for some reason, like, who can say what's gonna happen to them? They're gonna be eating hot chips and playing on their bisexual iPhones in like 10 years flat! As a fan of photography and Native American history, people think I grew this mustache because I'm a video essayist on YouTube. First of all, the second I grew this, it became like a fucking calling, and now it's like a... I'm not shaving it. It's very yeehaw. We're doing a yeehaw thing, you son of a bitch. I grew this not because I'm an asshole YouTuber. I grew this because I'm an asshole film photographer. I think that's slightly more respectable. The point is, as a fan of photography and Native American history, you can imagine why I'm so interested in Curtis's work. He captured this authenticity the only way you can, by staging a shitload of fucking photos. The most egregious and infamous of Curtis's attempts to fabricate authenticity came when he photographed a father and son. Little Plume and Yellow Kidney in their teepee. Between the two of them, an alarm clock. How had Curtis missed this? He agonized. It was a revealing photo. As he said in his caption later, full of suggestions of the various Indian activities, but could those activities include a device for getting up early, perhaps for a tedious job somewhere? He had his assistant Moore retouch the photos, removing the alarm clock. Edward Curtis had many shortcomings, but we should be more generous here. He was, if nothing else, an incredible photographer. He fought against laws which restricted Indian freedom of religion, as ceremonies like Potlatch of the Pacific Northwest were outright illegal at the time. Also, he did a snake dance with the Hopi, and that's fucking awesome. His photos drew popular attention to the plight of Native Americans at this time. He ruined his marriage during all of this in service to this mission. Women cannot abide being with men who get possessed by ideas. You should be possessed only with the desire to give her treats. Curtis, doing all this, traveling all over the country, being a cartoon adventurer, he didn't have time to take care of his wife and children. And then after his marriage fell apart and he didn't pay alimony, because why would he pay alimony? He didn't need to pay alimony. He needed more photos of goddamn Indians. He risked his life. He ruined no small part of it on his mission to document authentic Indians. And the problem lies there, in authenticity. How Curtis could have documented a genuine historical moment, and instead he attempted to create the historical moment he wanted. Curtis was not qualified to define authenticity. The alarm clock also suggested Indian activities, just not ones that he thought were interesting. Humanity seems trapped between a threatening future and an idealized past. We feel the present is unpleasant, alienating, and impersonal. We pine for simplicity and honesty to our lives, which we believe somewhere along the way we've lost. And we have always felt that way. This isn't new. It's part of the human condition. And I refuse to stop using the phrase human condition. Fuck you. I don't care if it's pretentious. If someone is telling you to return to this or that moment in the past, you just gotta ask yourself, has this motherfucker really thought about the problems right now? Does he know where horses come from? Can he really separate the past from the present? In another era, in another time, the good old days even, would this dumb son of a bitch be killing witches instead of the people that are actually ruining his life and killed his family? What is important is to communicate that you can't go back by just dressing like you have gone back. And you probably don't understand the past you want to return to that well. Wear your dresses, eat your bull testicles, slurp your bone broth. But when I contrast our lives today with lives in the past, from Rome to the Aztec to Native Americans of the 19th century, when I think about the greatest thing we've lost, it's not any of that shit. It's not these very superficial aesthetic things that influencers are peddling to you. You knew where it was going. We've lost third spaces, communities, scenes. In short, we've lost each other. Go camping with your friends and call your fucking grandma. Thanks for watching. This needs chalk. This is an ad lib. I didn't actually think. Isn't that? I took the fork in the plate. After you blend up a bunch of chalk, you just sort of. Where do you go from there? I jumped the chalk shark. I don't know. But I'm returning to the good old days. This is like all calcium. You know, I was scared. This is Hagoromo chalk, which is like this fancy chalk. I was scared I would learn that I have a shellfish allergy because they put shellfish in this. And I don't eat shellfish because that shit's fucking disgusting.